Hello everyone, today we are going to learn about IEP, that is Individualized Education Plan. Let's see the introduction about IEP. Individualized Education Program, also known as Individualized Educational Plan, which is considered heart and soul of inclusive education. So, an IEP defines the individualized objectives of a child who has been found with a disability as defined by federal regulations. The IEP is intended to help children reach educational goals more easily than they otherwise would. The IEP describes how the student learns, how the student best demonstrates that learning, and what teachers and service providers will do to help the student learn more effectively. Developing an IEP requires assessing student in all areas related to the known disabilities, simultaneously considering ability to access the general curriculum, considering how the disability affects the student's learning, forming goals and objectives that correspond to the needs of the student, and choosing a placement in the least restrictive environment possible for the student. So, in individualized educational program or planning, student having certain type of disabilities, learning disabilities, physical disabilities, mental disabilities, they are considering for that specialized educational plan for their growth and development according to federal regulations. Teachers, stakeholders, school authorities, administrative people, and parents, relatives assess the students' weak areas, and then simultaneously they work for their development in a systematic planning or in a systematic manner. So, because of that planning, an individual overcome their problem or eradicate or minimize their problem. So this is all about introduction of IEP. Who qualifies for an IEP? Before an IEP is written for a child with a disability, the school must first determine whether the child qualifies for special education services. To qualify, the child's disability must have an adverse effect on the child's educational progress. First one is an evaluation. Parents, teacher, a counselor, a doctor, or anyone else who suspects a child is struggling can request an evaluation. The school psychologist and other professional may give differently able child various tests. They also may observe child in the classroom. Second one is a decision. The IEP team, which includes parents and school officials, decides whether or not differently able children need special education services in order to learn the general education curriculum. IDEA, that is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Acts, says that having any of 13 disability may qualify a child for special education. The school and parents review the evaluation and determine whether the results show the child needs services and support. Disabilities, for example, cerebral palsy, autism, learning disabilities like dyslexia, dysgraphia, etc. So, having these qualities in an individual or suffering from these disabilities, these problems are faced by individual, so they are qualified for an IEP, that is Individualized Educational Plan. Let's see the definition of IEP. The Individualized Education Program is the central component of special education law. The Individuals with Disability Education Act, referred to as IDEA. The IEP is both a process and a document. The process includes the planning steps taken by a multidisciplinary team, including the parents, to assess the child, determine eligibility, and to design an appropriate educational program. The IEP is a dynamic working document describing the special education and related services, specially designed to ensure that every student with disabilities receives an appropriate education. So, IEP is all about providing facilities for appropriate education special needs students. With multidisciplinary approach or in multidisciplinary team, they have their parents, their school authorities, professionals, psychologists, doctors, etc. The main goal of IEP development is overall development of individual having disabilities we suffer from some type of disabilities or academic problems. So here are some goals. Frame academic goals, methods to attain academic goal, ensure academic goals achieved. IEP document developed for the differently able student to help them frame them academic goals and methods to attain these goals. The IEP is prepared to ensure academic goals are achieved. In IEP program, academic goals were framed in systematic manner and applied the methods to attain decided goal, and multidisciplinary team ensures that academic goals achieved for an individual. The plan is framed. So this is all about IEP goals. Before the developing the IEP, assessment of the student having challenges to attain their academic goals is done. The assessment is done for different motor skills, academic skills and social skills. Motor skills may include hand-eye coordination, finger dexterity, etc. Academic assessment consists of the performance of the student in different school subjects. An individual education plan or individual education program is a document which is developed for differently able students to help them frame their academic goals, the methods to attain these goals. The IEP is prepared to ensure their educational goals are achieved. The history of IEP can be traced back to the 1970s. It was really the parents of differently able children who encouraged legislators to adapt the Education for All Handicapped Children Act (EAHCA) in 1975. This legislation required school districts to include and educate students with special needs and to create specialized academic plans for them. In 1990, EAHCA was renamed the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, that is IDEA. The purpose of IEP, Individualized Educational Plan, is always the same: to tailor an educational plan for the students or children so that he or she can reach his or her full potential. The IEP can be broken down into following categories, that is assessment, example motor skills, assessment for academics, assessment for social skills. Very firstly we will see assessment for motor skills. May include hand and eye coordination, finger dexterity, etc. The IEP deals with fine motor skill, working with clay or holding, grasping, for example making paper planes or paper boats. Second one is assessment for academics. Academic assessment consists of performance of different school subjects, and subjects related difficulty has considered IEP related with academic skills. It could also include helping in student learning proper study habit, academic achievement or academic problems like spelling error, inability in reading, handwriting problem are dealt while preparing the IEP or individualized education plan. Third one is social skills like communication, interpersonal relationship or also assist in individualized education plan. IPES plan for improving on social skills focus on improving interpersonal behavior of the student, because differently able children face challenges in comparison with their peers. So social skill maintenance and development is very necessary for that people. So this is all about categories considered while preparing an individualized educational plan. What happens at an IEP meeting? Child strengths, share any success disabled child has or had outside of school. Let's say child struggle with attention issues and social skills. His or her IEP team will want to know that he or she find it easier to follow directions from his soccer coach and is better at cooperating with teammates. Parent concerns and suggestions for improving child's education. The meeting is a good time to share where you still see child struggling. Does he or she still have a tough time spelling? The team can also consider any new instruction and technology tool that might be right for special child. The result of child's first or most recent evaluation, child should evaluate it every 3 years, the school psychologist or professional conducting the evaluation will usually explain the result at the IEP meeting. So, some types of direction or discussion with parents and teammates and the coach of the team and the student we are struggling or we are suffering from such diseases. They discuss their problems and showing them direction or instruction for children as well as parents of that individual. Who produces an IEP? The student's parents. IDEA gives parents the legal right to participate in all of the child's IEP meetings. As the parent, they are full and equal member of the team. After all, parents probably know child's strength and struggles better than anyone else. Parents' concern and suggestions about his or her education are invaluable. At least one of the child's general education teachers, at least one special education teacher or other special education provider. A school district representative knowledgeable about both general education and special education. So in the production of IEP plan, most important role playing, so the most important role of the parents of an individual with special educators, special teachers, school authorities and the team in charge. The person also should have the power to take decisions that involve school resources. In other words, if the school wrap things differently, able children should be given speech therapy. The person also should have the power to make decisions that involve school resources. In other words, if the school think differently, able child should be given speech therapy, he or she should have the power to make that happen. A school psychologist or other specialist who can interpret the student's evaluation and test result. When the child turns 16, he will be expected to participate as a member of his or her IEP team and help develop a transition plan. A representative from an outside agency such as school vocational program may join meeting. In this way, IEP plan produces successfully. Let's see the steps of individualized plan. The process of developing an IEP is very systematic. It consists of 4 clearly defined steps. They are illustrated in figure given below. Very first step is determining eligibility for services. The IEP is a very comprehensive program which is tailored or made of each student. Such plan cannot be prepared for every student. It is a specific plan for specific person or needed disabled children. Before a student can receive special education services provided under the IEP, he or she must evaluated or for eligibility under IDEA. There are currently 13 categories under which a child can receive these services. First one is autism, deaf blindness, deafness, emotional disturbances, hearing impairment, intellectual disabilities, multiple disabilities, orthopedic impairment, other health impairments, specific learning disabilities, speech or language impairment, traumatic brain injuries or visual impairment. How to get a child student evaluated for eligibility? Parents who are interested in getting an IEP prepared for their wards can contact the child's teachers, the school psychologist or the school principal. A group of qualified persons like counselor, psychiatrist, etc. will decide whether to evaluate or not and create a plan for the evaluation. Teachers can also refer students for evaluation, but this should happen after attempts have been made to remedy problems without special education services. The school's student services team SST holds a meeting to discuss the student's performance. In the meeting, the class teacher should bring work samples and other data such as reading and maths scores, behavioral chart and writing samples. The evaluation team can then decide whether to refer the child for an evaluation or suggest that the child continue without special education services. If the team suspects that a child has a learning or behavioral impairment, it will work together to determine what test and data will be gathered. No testing can be begun until the parent concerned giving return permission to evaluate. Following the testing and gathering of existing data, the evaluation team will meet again to discuss the result. Anytime the decisions are made regarding evaluation, the parent is invited to participate. Each of the 13 categories of disability included in IDEA has unique qualification requirements. There are some diagnoses the teachers and school psychologists are not qualified to make, like attention deficit hyperactive disorder, ADHD, autism, and most physical and developmental delays require medical diagnosis. The bottom line is that each category of disability, there must be an impact on the student's education caused by disability, and the student must be deemed in need of specially designed instruction. Second one is develop the IEP. The IEP meetings. After a thorough and full individual's evaluation, it is determined that the child has one of the disability listed in IDEA and needs special education and related services. Within 30 calendar days, the IEP meeting must be held. A child's IEP must also be reviewed at least annually thereafter to determine whether the annual goals are being achieved and must be revised as per the needs of the child. Members who develop the IEP. The IEP is a cooperative efforts in framing a plan of action to help differently able students to attain their goals. The meeting for developing the IEP consists of different people. Every IEP meeting must have attendance, the special education teacher, district representative, the test data interpreter, the general education teacher, the parent, the student 16 years and above. Younger students are not included in meeting as they are not mature enough to understand the details of discussion. School psychologists, adaptive physical education teacher, and service providers such as speech and language specialist and occupational therapist. Components of IEP. The IEP is very detailed document. It consists of comprehensive and wide range of information regarding the differently able child. The components of the IEP are as follows: the child's present levels of academic achievement and functional performance, describing how the child is currently doing in school and how the child's disability affect his or her involvement and progress in the general curriculum. The special education and related services are planned which is to be provided to the child. This includes supplementary aids and services such as communication devices or assistive technology. Details regarding the changes to the program and supports for school personnel, example additional support from therapist or psychiatrist are included. How much of the school day the child will be educated separately from non-disabled children or not participate in extracurricular or other non-academic activities such as lunch or clubs. This is kept to the minimum as inclusion does not encourage any kind of segregation. Modifications required to test the child needs. The child may have to be administered modified summative evaluation techniques different from the one used for the rest of the peer. When services accommodation and modification will begin, how often where they will be provided and how long they will last. How school personnel will measure the child's progress towards the annual goals. This will require a separate evaluation plan for the child. Third one is implement the IEP. Implementing the IEP, the plan is implemented using the various activities planned in IEP. The teacher may use different instructional strategies like remedial teaching or use additional audiovisual aids as per the need of the student. Evaluate the student's progress. The progress of the student is measured through both formative or summative assessment. That is, these assessments are done time to time to keep a check on the student's advancement. Adjustment in the IEP on the basis of the information obtained through assessments. The IEP's adjustment are made in terms of goals, expectations, strategies, and support as and when necessary. Last one is follow. The IEP meeting should not be the only time the teachers, parents, and other service providers discuss a child's progress. Informal meetings may be held between the members of the IEP to check the child's progress. The teacher and the parents need to be in constant frequent contact for the benefit of the child. This continuous follow-up is conducted to find out the effectiveness of the IEP. The IEP is working document and can be modified and changed as needed throughout the school year. Modifications are made according to the needs of the child based on the follow-up. These needs may keep changing depending upon the progress of the child. Thus, the original IEP may not remain the same over a period of time. It is a flexible document like the inclusive system, which is also flexible according to the needs of the student. Develop a transition plan for students as required based on the progress report, which may be weekly or monthly. The short-term goals are changed. The transition between the goals too needs to be planned in detail. This is essential for the plan to have a continuous flow without gaps in between spatial guide. IEPs focus only on the areas that are affected by the challenges faced by the differently able student. It focuses on the student's learning and allocates a time for the student for successfully satisfy objectives that are linked to the IEP goal. The IEP should take into consideration what the student peers are learning. This provides an age-appropriate approximation of the general education curriculum. Another important factor essential for the successful implementation of the IEP is the line of communication should always be open between the IEP team members. This enables them continuously work together to best meet needs of each student. This is all about the steps of individualized plan, right from the determining eligibility criteria or services and how parents and teachers get follow-up for that plan. Guiding principle for IEP development, it is child-centered, shared responsibility or parental participation, share responsibility between team members, in team that is stakeholders, parents, coach, special teachers, psychologist, counselor, psychiatrist, physiotherapist, etc. are in team. Special education is a service, not a place. General education curriculum standard and assessment based on individual strengths and needs. Planning for adult outcomes includes positive behavior support, tool to guide instruction and measure progress. So these are some guiding principles for IEP development. IEP in short is that present levels of academic achievement and functional performance judged before the IEP planning, students' individual needs taken in a consideration, then checking the eligibility criteria, then sets goal and objective for the plan, then provides services, and then accommodation and modification done in a plan, and then placement in a plan. So this is all about the IEP, that is individualized education planning or program for an individual. So thank you one and all.